All right, in this video, I wanted to talk about how to read if you don't like reading. For me, I know I'm not the best reader. I don't really like reading long novels or reading things that require me to spend a lot of time. I rather read shorter items. But recently, I was given a book that I was recommended to read. If you're curious of the book, it's called Running on Empty by Jonas Webb. I'm excited to read the book. I've heard really good things from the reviews I've read and then from the person that recommended it to me, my therapist. So when it comes down to how I plan on reading this book, that's what I wanted to share with you with some tips that I'm going to be doing so that maybe you could do the same if you're going to read either the same book or whatever book you plan on wanting to read. When it comes down to this book, I did end up purchasing a online version, so a Kindle. Sometimes I do get physical books, the paperbacks. It just depends on how long the book is and what kind of topic it is. If it's more for school type of stuff, I have like textbooks in my closet. The big boy books, these are the ones that you bust out the highlighters and everything in. And then you have the other types that are just like your smaller, maybe 200 to 300 page ones that you can kind of hold in your hand. When it comes down to the book though, I always try to recommend to get the audiobook of it. That way you actually have someone who can read it to you when you do not feel like reading. And that's how I plan on going through this book is, like I said, I got Kindle and then I also got the audiobook version of it. So whenever I'm looking at the book, it starts to read it to me versus me having to read. Now sometimes I do pause the reader or the audiobook or whoever's reading, and I repeat whatever's said or whatever was in the last few paragraphs. I'll reread it myself. Sometimes I'll say it out loud. Sometimes I'll have to make notes either within that book itself or I'll have to write it down. And once I get done with that, then I can resume back with the audiobook. Or if you don't have access to the audiobook, try reading it out loud. Reading out loud is way better than reading it in your head. When you read it out loud, you actually can hear the words that are being said. Verse when you put it inside of your head, you might miss a word or two or might miss the explanation or the details of what you just read because you're reading it through your mind versus reading it out loud. You can also try doing live shared reading, which is basically we're such a technological world. You can either do this online where you're doing like a live share, a video call, and you guys are both reading the books, or it could be that you're sitting in front of them, you both have the book, or you share the book and you just read it out loud back to each other, or if they just read it to you, by themselves and, you're just listening and you're taking notes. These are all multiple ways that you can digest the information of the book. However, when you get done with all of this information, I do recommend that you redisclose the information that you were given and you read. Try doing this by making, like I said, extensive notes for yourself. You could try quizzing yourself on these topics depending on what it is that you're reading. For this Jonas Webb book, I plan on writing a lot of notes and seeing how I can apply it to my daily life, making a plan to put some of these pieces of information into how I develop my relationships, because that's what this book is meant to help start doing, is to start kind of going over like your previous childhood and then how to take certain parts of that and become a better adult. And so of course we're all trying to become better adults, so when I take this information, it's going to be put either on paper or into a calendar on my phone, and it's just going to be a reminder to either go back into the book and reread that same section again, or have it read out loud, or go through the audiobook or whatever it is, and then just try to digest it again. Like, keep repeating until you completely understand it, because when you read it the first time, you're more than likely not going to completely understand it. It takes the few rereads before you can actually get it. The other thing I would recommend is just having someone to keep you accountable. If you can plan out how often you want to read and how far you should get, having that person that keeps you accountable, this can include yourself or other people, where you check in either weekly or bi-weekly to see if you've gotten to the point of where you want to be in the book. and then just giving your own like summary or your own words of what happened so far in the book is kind of the best way of making sure that you actually get through the book. Now, if you start reading and you get kind of frustrated, you know, plan how much time you want to actually read. You don't need to read for hours on end. I know for this book, I planned on spending about 20 to 30 minutes a day versus trying to spend hours trying to digest it in a shorter period of time. I'd rather spend a little bit longer time actually reading it to understand versus reading it to just read it. And so, other than that, I don't have anything else. Good luck on the book and peace.